Okay.
All right, let's see. Okay, so it looks like we're recording. So if you could start with just your first and last name and your title.
Sure. So my name is Bobbie Mabe, and I'm here at HopeWay today. I am their horticultural therapist. I'm also the owner of Growth Through Gardening, which is a horticultural therapy services business.
Okay, now I'm going to be looking down at my phone because I have some questions here. So I'll start with this. Do plants and gardening really improve mental health? And if so, how?
Absolutely. And I think anybody who has a houseplant or a home garden, or in any way takes care of plants knows that this is the truth, whether or not it's very cognitively aware of that. But here I see it every day. I see clients come out, and if I could take a picture of the before and after of when the clients come out to horticulture and when they're going back in, it is so evident. And that's something that I can see, and I think the clients feel. But the thing that's hard about quantifying that, rather than like the quality of it, you can see on a person's face, but quantifying is hard because there are so many pieces of life that are wrapped up in our interactions with plants. So here at HopeWay and in other situations, it's very much about having something to look forward to. That's a real basic thing. So when we're planting seeds or we're checking on the plants that we're watering every week, this is something that clients actually look forward to. So it's an excitement that they might not find elsewhere at that moment in their lives. And I think I've heard that you bought a house plant recently.
I've gone a little crazy. I bought one to start. My therapist was like, you should get a house plant. And I was like, no, I kill plants. I'm not gonna. But then I bought one, and then I bought two, and now I have like four. So
And the reason we do that is because it is a relationship.
Mhm.
And it's kind of an easy relationship. They're not going to talk back at you. If you give them what they need, which usually a houseplant doesn't need a lot, you can find a lot of success in that relationship. And so that's another thing where, when we have clients who are just really struggling with, basics in their lives, and relationships are also a huge part of that typically, it's a really great way to be like, oh my gosh, I'm helping something to grow, and look how happy it is. And it's this long lasting relationship. So that sort of interaction with nature is really important. If you think back to before we had an app on our phone that told us what the weather was going to be in 3 days, a long time ago, humans really looked at nature to know what they were going to need to survive, right? So if you watch the birds and what they're doing, if you watch squirrels, if you look at the sky and you see the clouds, we had to be really in tune with all of that just to survive. And we've really erased some of that connection from our lives, that necessity for that connection. And in horticultural therapy, we really believe that when you distance yourself from nature, symptoms of anxiety and depression and isolation will then be increased. So when we reconnect with nature, whether it's a house plant or you're starting seeds in a greenhouse, those symptoms will be reduced. So, another huge thing about working with plants is that you really have to be focused and you have to be in the now. So you can't be worried about what's going to happen later. You're not really ruminating on the past. You're really just thinking about the present situation, what needs to be done. There's a lot of focus, a lot of kind of meditative activities that we do. Starting seeds. A lot of it is repetition, but you have to be very precise. Weeding. You have to really pay attention because you don't want to pull the plants you want to keep. You want to pull the weeds. So there's just a lot of really staying in the now that's very helpful. Another aspect is the social aspect. If you're feeling isolated, which 2020 has done that to all of us,
yes.
It's a really great way to be in an outdoor space, which feels very safe right now, and to still have that interaction with other people. So it is a nice way to still connect with others while you're reconnecting with nature as well.
I love that. And, when you mentioned staying in the now, I never thought about it that way, because I think for people who are like naturally control freaks like myself, and when I got my first plant, the first thing I thought about was, okay, I have to keep you alive. So I'm already thinking, well beyond just the right now. Like, what do I have to do right now to just nurture
Sure.
and care for this plant?
Yeah. And I think houseplants, I have a lot of clients who are like, oh, I can't grow houseplants. I'm terrible. I don't have a green thumb. And the reality is, if you have a few key steps that you can follow, you'll have a lot more success. I think nobody teaches how to care for a houseplant. They're just available everywhere, and
Yep.
you can pick them up off the shelf and take them home. But it really is, you're forming a relationship, and it is like having a pet, or, you know what I mean? Something that you are responsible for. So think about that. We're just like, yeah, take plants home. Just take them home. It'll be fine. No, it won't be fine. Just, there are some steps and a little bit of training, but once you have that, then smooth sailing.
Now, you talked about the pandemic and how isolation can really lead to an increase in anxiety and depression. Have you seen an uptick in, say, a need for your services, horticultural therapy, since the start of the pandemic?
Yeah, in fact, I was surprised, but not surprised. Of course, everybody went to the outdoors, right? It was the safest place. You can keep your distance. But my clients really needed extra services during that time, because they knew, like, this is a location that's safe. We can still have programming. We can still do these things, and they're really important to our clients. So it was actually a greater desire for the services. Which would have been obvious. Although a lot of times I feel like when you're cutting budgets and other things, when you have an integrative therapy such as horticulture, I do look at that and I think that might be the first to go. If you have to cut something out. But actually, even, at HopeWay, the programming at HopeWay is really thoughtful. And it's very holistic. So we have a lot of offerings here. So I'm here doing the horticultural therapy. We also have art therapy, music therapy, rec therapy. We have a dietitian on staff, and we're all kind of intertwined. And HopeWay has, from the beginning, understood that they wanted that for their clients. And so they were very much like, no, we cannot lose horticulture. And clients, it's really a great, I wish you could see the faces, but if you have a house plant and you look at it, you just feel better.
I do. And when I get up in the morning, sometimes I go to them and I'm like, good morning, guys.
Right.
And I feel so crazy doing it, but
No, these relationships, and we all do feel probably a little bit weird about it. Yeah. But I mean, I have clients who come in, they're like, look at my babies. And I'm like, that's what it is. It really is this, relationship of, if you're creating life, if you're sustaining life, it just feels great to have them. And they really are. So our cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, are lowered anytime we look at plants. So just visualizing green plants or, plants in our space really lowers our stress levels. They're air purifying, so they really do help our health as well. So having them in our space is really important. So I cannot stress enough to have houseplants. And there are just a few little tricks to taking care of them. And I always say, just ask everybody for information. Look on the internet for information. There's so much information out there that if you wouldn't adopt a puppy and say, well, never had a dog, but I'll just figure it out. There are so many resources, and it's just more publicized.
Mm-hmm. So so for like myself, I had a terrible track record of killing plants and flowers. And so I was terrified when I got my first plant. What would you advise someone who's new to houseplants? What would you advise them to do?
Sure. So one of the things I always say, and this is, in horticultural therapy, we would say, if you don't have a great foundation, how well can you really grow? So you look at your plant, and we forget about the root system a lot. But when you're buying a plant, there's no telling how long they've been in the pots that they've come in. So the first thing I like to do is repot my plant, give it a little bit more space and some fresh potting soil. And then you want to feed your plant. So again, if you're thinking about your plant like a pet or even another human, give them a great foundation for starting out. And then you really want to keep feeding them so they can grow and be healthy. So I like to fertilize my plants. I really do it every time I water. And the other thing that's really key is knowing that your plants don't need as much water as you probably think they do.
I learned that the hard way. And actually, that's why I killed so many plants in the past. But this time around, I'm like, oh, wait, I can water you once a month and it's fine. I just, I would have
Yes.
never known.
Yes. Well, I think so. We garden a lot and we grow our own vegetables here. And those actually need a lot more water than a houseplant. I'll tell you a trick. So the best trick is if you put your finger in the soil and you can feel that it's damp up to your first knuckle, it's fine. So that's a
Okay.
really good, easy test. But yeah, I mean, we just tend to overwater. I know succulents, everybody loves succulents. They're amazing and sweet and
I
lovely.
have one.
And yeah, just don't overwater it and you'll be fine. They just like to be ignored. They're the ones who are like, just leave me alone. I'm fine. And so once in a while I'll
Mhm.
check in and they're like, oh, just give you a little water. You're fine. We're good. Move along. Yeah.
I love that. So, and I do want to ask you this too. The clients that you've had coming in for horticultural therapy, have you seen an increase, I guess, before the pandemic compared to during the pandemic in depression, anxiety, stress levels, that type of thing?
Yes. I mean, the next
Okay.
pandemic is going to be a mental health pandemic, truly. Everything that people were feeling before is just now magnified. And a lot of it is because our support systems just aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe our regular schedules have been disrupted. The people that we would rely on and who are in our social circle, we're not
Yeah.
spending as much time with them. So there are a lot of reasons, and anxiety over, the unknown. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know what it looks like in a year or 2 years, and that's very stressful. So yeah, we've definitely seen. We have been really full since we've opened. All of our programs have been full.
Um, oh no, I was going to ask. So HopeWay, what is HopeWay exactly? Because I've actually never heard of it.
So many people in Charlotte don't know about HopeWay. HopeWay is a mental health facility. It's a nonprofit. And what we do is we have, like I said, we offer holistic therapies. So every client that comes in is placed in a therapeutic group, and a lot of the programming is in a group situation. But every client also has an individual therapist as well as a psychiatrist. And then, like I said, we include all of the integrative therapies, and we also have yoga and some other activities that they're introduced to and can participate in while they're here. And we have a residential track, so we do have clients who live here during their treatment. We also have a day program, and then an intense outpatient program, which is just like 9 hours a week.
Wow, I did not know about that. So, what is okay? And I would just be honest. When I was Googling trying to find like someone who could talk to me about plants and mental health, I had never heard of a horticultural therapist. I
Yeah,
was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. I mean, because you hear about, like say regular therapy, but I've never heard of horticultural therapists. So what is that and how, I guess, does it kind of tie in with the other mental health
sure.
therapists?
So horticultural therapy basically brings plants and plant materials into the therapeutic relationship. So it's not just myself and the client. Now we're adding plants and plant materials. So that can mean anything from, I've mentioned, seed starting in the greenhouse, to managing our outdoor gardens, to in the winter when there's not a ton happening horticulturally. We do a lot of like essential oil work, or kind of crafting with natural products and things like that. So we'll prune back our grapevines and make grapevine wreaths out of them, and then decorate them for the holidays. So there's a whole host of things that can happen. And a lot of it is kind of guided by the client. So, if they're saying, I just need something to take my mind off of what's happening today, we'll find kind of a meditative thing that can be watering plants. It's a phenomenal way just to be relaxed in here and now, rather than worried about the future. And, even the noises of that are great, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at the plants, you're watering them. It's just this really kind of calming and soothing activity. If they really need to focus, it's, planting very small seeds, where you'll
Mhm.
plant carrot seeds, they need to be 1 inch apart. Here's some tweezers. So it's kind of meticulous, but a lot of clients just love that because you have to focus. You cannot do that job without being right there. So, if there's a lot of anger, we'll do kind of gross motor activities. So shoveling compost, pulling weeds, things like that are really great for just getting that sort of anger out a little bit more. So really, if clients are coming in and they're just really struggling with a certain thing, we'll just find the right activity for them. Horticulture is great because we don't all have to be doing the same thing. So there's a little bit of flexibility within the group for people to say, I just need to do this, or I really love doing that. Can I do that? And it's always, yes, absolutely. Please do that. It's all about stress reduction. So, one of the things too is it is part of recreational therapy. So we are a component of that. Although, if you're a recreational therapist, you can dabble in plants, but you're not really trained to do that as your entire program. I went through the Horticultural Therapy Institute, which is an amazing program. And that is just focused on training horticultural therapists. So something like that would be great for anybody who is interested in getting into the field. So we do, however, kind of cross over. So this week, during the rainy days, we were in the greenhouse creating containers out of clay for succulents. So, while the clients are doing clay work that would typically be handled in the art therapy section, it really is, they're really excited about what their little succulent is going to live in when they take it home, right? So it's this kind of buildup of adopting a plant and what do I want my plant to live in? So, there is some crossover, and also we grow our own vegetables. So the clients are able to harvest those and take them home, and they learn all about, food and nutrition in our learning kitchen. So those, and I try to grow things that, are collaborative with the recipes that they're learning. So now they can practice that at home.
I love that.
So we do cross over a lot, but it's this really fabulous kind of synergy with everybody that's providing services here. And the clients really appreciate it. So we're not just kind of throwing them out to the wolves, right? We're like, okay, we're going to teach you these skills and we're going to let you do it at home. We're going to, support you in that. So it's just a really great collaborative, kind of therapy situation here.
So would you say, and I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly how it works. So if someone says, I need to go to therapy because I'm just really having a hard time and I'm struggling with depression and anxiety, would the therapist recommend horticultural therapy, or how does that work?
Sure. I mean, so there are groups, like therapy groups, where there's a horticultural therapist who might be one of the therapists. So it might be an integrated therapy that they also attend. It's not talk therapy. So typically it would be in conjunction with talk therapy. Sometimes this is a great modality for families as well. So if you want to do things at home with families, this is a great thing to do because it's accessible to everyone, from the tiniest of children to seniors. So it is a really great modality for that kind of flexibility, but it's not sort of its own. I wouldn't suggest that for anybody who is really suffering from depression. You want to have this as an additive to your talk therapy. So if you had an individual therapist and they're like, oh, plant therapy might be great for you, absolutely do it.
So what can someone expect if they are interested in coming to horticultural therapy?
Yeah, so horticultural therapy, like I said, is really flexible. So there would be kind of an assessment of your needs. So, we add the plant materials really to meet the client's needs and goals. So it is client-based. So if you were coming in and you said, well, I really want to reduce my anxiety, we might focus on how do you have houseplants? Where do you put them? Do you want to grow vegetables in your yard? We would kind of assess like what you're interested in and then go through the path of that. Horticultural therapy is somewhat dictated by seasons. So we would probably do seasonal activities that are related to your goals. And that's the same here. Like I said, when clients come out and they're saying, I just really am struggling with anxiety today. Okay, well, let's find out something that's going to release that a little bit, calm you down, make you feel more comfortable. So it would be the same for any client. Let's look at your goals and let's figure out where plants fit in that. And ultimately it is about reducing stress, anxiety, isolation, all of those things, which can be addressed easily through horticulture.
So what kind of, you mentioned like some of the activities, making, I guess, planters for your plants when it comes time for you to take them home. What other kind of activities could someone expect?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I can recently, when the weather is like it has been, and we've had a lot of rain and we haven't been outside, we've been in the greenhouse. So we've made terrariums, which clients love. I love to give them things that they can take home with them, or that it's like a make and take kind of feel where they've accomplished something. I mean, you just feel so much pride and like excitement in accomplishing that. So we've done terrariums. We have started our seeds for the garden. So we've got a lot of our vegetable seeds going right now. So there are tasks that we do just because the season demands it. But then there is a lot of crafting. My clients love to make soap. We use essential oils a lot. So essential oils are made from plants. So they're very concentrated oils. So the plants go through a distillation process. I don't know if do you do any work with the essential oils?
I have some. I have actually, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I went to Trader Joe's the other day and they have these rollers and they're essential oils, and it's like bliss and sleep. And so, yes, I
Yes.
miss them.
Right. So our clients tend to be very familiar with the essential oils and do use them in diffusers at home. So I love to create things that they can take home with them, because then it becomes something they can talk to their friends about or their family, and it's this thing that's just kind of unique that they hadn't tried before. So we will make soap, which they love, and it's just such a simple thing. And these things can, like I said, they can do them at home as well. So I like to teach them skills that they can, transfer to home, their social circle. It's a really fun activity to do with other people. So that cuts down on the isolation. We take part in the kindness rock movement. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's just, we just paint rocks. So what it is this, the thought that you can positively impact the world and other people without even meeting them. So what we do is we paint positive messages on rocks and then place them. They can place them around the HopeWay campus or just anywhere they'd like to put them. But then, and I've seen it happen here when somebody finds it, they're like, oh, that was for me. That I just needed that today, right? So I've seen it happen on campus, which is so lovely. Is that clients will paint their messages and they'll put their rocks out, and weeks later, other clients will find them and say, oh, I just needed that message today. And they're like, can I keep it? And they've got their rock in their pocket, and it's fabulous. So, but it is this way. Again, everything is about reconnection. So thinking about painting a rock might not make sense. But actually, as I was on my way to speak with you, a client stopped me and said, I just want you to know, I didn't really have anything to do this weekend. So I painted a rock. Aww. And I put on there, you are not alone. And the client said, I thought that was a great message for COVID. And they just put it outside of their house, and I'm like, that's really what I love to hear, is that these skills are being used outside of here and it's still working for the client. For them to think about, I'm going to paint a rock, and that's a good thing for me to do today.
I love that. What are some other things you feel like people should know? Because, I feel like with houseplants, I was kind of Googling a little bit, and it's kind of taken off, especially during the pandemic. I mean, and I was thinking, I said, oh, I thought I was the only one, but no, I mean, it's like its own thing now. What do you think about that?
I love it. I mean, to me, it speaks volumes about the importance of nature. When we were, when the toilet paper supply was low, I didn't panic. When the meat supply was low, I didn't panic. But I can tell you, when I went to Home Depot to get greenhouse supplies and I looked around and I thought they were like closing down their plant section because they were all gone, then I got worried. I thought, oh my gosh.
Uh-oh. Bobbie, can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I think it cut out for a second. There you go.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, I feel like it might not have been such a forethought of, I need to buy a plant. I think when we were all home, it might have just even snuck into our thoughts of like, oh, that plant might make my space look really good. And now that I'm here, And again, right, you get one and now you're like, well, maybe a few more and a few more, because they just make us feel good, right?
They do.
So I think definitely when people are home, the need for plants is greater. We just need those in our space.
Anything else that you would like to add that you feel like would be important for people to know when it comes to houseplants, gardening, HopeWay, horticultural therapy? Anything that we didn't touch on?
Yes, I always say, because I do have so many clients who are afraid to have a plant. And what I always say is that seeds are cheap, right? So if you want to start plants from seeds, do it. We have so many seeds. We have an abundance of seeds. They're cheap. Play with your plants. That's one of the biggest things is do not be stressed out about it. Play with it. Look at them. Observe them. Have a relationship with them. Don't worry about it. And just find information. Look for resources. We have a lot of nurseries around town that you could. Anybody who's a plant person loves to talk about plants.
Yep.
So if you ask us, right? So if you ask anybody who's a plant person about plants, you will get some information. And it's not a burden for them, right? So there's, like I said, there are several. I will say Roundtree Plantation is one of my favorites. They're very knowledgeable. And when you go there, you just don't want to leave because it's so pretty. Yes. So I highly recommend, if you have questions, to go out and kind of have a conversation with those people. You can do that anywhere they're selling plants. They should have some knowledge about it. But Roundtree has been one of my favorites. So sorry for the shameless plug for them.
No, you're fine.
And they're right down the road from HopeWay, so it's really it's really accessible, which I love.
I'm gonna have to check them out.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so when I go into their greenhouses, I just think, oh, I could stay here if I could just bring my lunch with me and eat my lunch there. But yeah, I think just play and just ask questions. And just learn. And we make mistakes when we learn. I can't tell you, I have killed my fair share of plants, but you just start over and you think, well, I am so sorry, but I'm just going to start over.
You apologize first. I'm sorry.
All right, let's just do that again. But we do, once you get the sense of like, okay, well, I can make mistakes and it's okay. What are the ultimate results is I just have to kind of start over. That's not a terrible result, right? Yeah. So just have some freedom in that. And like I said, always start with foundation. Think about foundation and then build up from there. Foundation, feed, find out what your plant likes. So you could look it up online and it'll say, this much light, not too much water. And that's it. That's all you have to do, truly. I mean, it's really, just pay attention once in a while and and it's a great relationship, but just don't stress over it. If there's anything in horticultural therapy, it should be that it is a stress reducer. It should not build stress for you. So if you're finding yourself feeling anxious or stressed about your plant, just ask questions. Just get some information and it's solved. That's it. Easy peasy.
Now, last thing, because I don't want to keep you too long. You mentioned a lot of people are afraid to get into plants. So what are some easy plants that you would recommend for beginners?
Sure. There are a lot of low light, low need houseplants, and I would say succulents are not the easiest. People love succulents, but I think we overlove them, and they're kind of in their own category. So if you're going to get houseplants, in the philodendron family are really easy, and they're vining and beautiful, and so they're very easy. The snake plant, I do have one here.
I have one.
You have one. Aren't they fabulous?
Oh my gosh, right here. And I love it.
So they are fabulous and they're so hardy and they live in barely any light and barely any water. So I love a snake plant. Let's see, a zebra plant. I have one of those here. This one is lovely and it just grows and vines so prolifically. And this has a beautiful color. So that's a great one to have. It does need a little bit more light than the snake plant would, but when you see them readily available, like if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and they're hanging in there, they're probably going to be pretty easy to care for. But again, just I like to go in and I think we all have our own moods when we go in, and sometimes I'm like, I need something really spiky and tall. So that's what I'm going to buy. Or if I'm like, I need something really lush and like, waxy leaves, just buy what your heart's telling you to buy and just learn about it. But most of the things you're going to find, especially in a place like Home Depot or Lowe's, are very typical houseplants that are low maintenance. I cannot stress enough, as long as you're feeding them, because what happens is they're taking all of the nutrients out of the soil to live. And so if they run out of those nutrients, they're going to become very sad. So as long as you're feeding them on a regular basis and giving them a little bit of light or whatever their requirements are, you're going to do well. But yeah, I love the vining ones. The philodendrons, it is the classic, like, whose grandmother didn't have a philodendron that you probably have a cutting of now, right?
I know. Bobbie, thank you so much. I love this. This was amazing.
Thank you. And again, I just encourage people to check out horticultural therapy. Look at the Horticultural Therapy Institute online. Just any questions they might have, just reach out. There are a few of us here in Charlotte doing some work. We're usually pretty quiet with our head and hands in the dirt, but we can be found. So it's definitely a great modality, and don't feel nervous. Even if you just want to learn about plants, just find a way to do it. There are a lot of classes, and it's well worth it. So
thank you. And I will certainly reach back out. And I'll also keep you posted on the story as well.
Great. Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Have a good rest of your day, Bobbie.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.